Hello and welcome back to Flora and the Novice Explorers, and we are back again with our mini Flora upgrade series.
That's right, this is episode 2 and probably the most important of all the upgrades we've done, I think.
This is something that we should have done to make our van life experience slightly more pleasurable.
Yep, it's just something we overlooked. I'm not quite sure how. Maybe we didn't realise how important it was living in such a small space, but we've definitely learnt our lesson.
Even from our 5 months regret video when we were filming that, where were we? In Spain, we knew the mistakes we had made.
So much so that I think ventilation was number 1 on the list. So it was definitely time to combat that.
Yes. So today is all about rectifying ventilation.
How did we rationalise the idea of not installing a fan when we first converted the van?
So I think there's 2 big ones. Cost again, it was quite expensive to buy the fan, but then you also combine that with having to cut a hole in the roof, which we really didn't want to do. We don't do cutting holes, as you will find out. A
lot of cold, wet days in Germany and Austria, so when you're cooking inside, creating a bit of steam, it does tend to get a little bit sweaty.
This is coming in a minute though. But we also had plans to use the roof more for storage with the roof box and also with the surfboard, so that kind of ruined that idea, and also the solar panel. And in general, I think it came to bite us in the butt a little bit, but
we'll discuss that more in a minute.
I think overall we didn't know whether it was really worth it and necessary for the cost and for the aggravation.
But having lived in the van for about 400 days or so, we think that fan and good ventilation is a must.
Yeah, hindsight has told us that. So leading on from that, what was our main issue regarding not having proper ventilation?
Well, we did touch on a couple in the intro. I think for me, one of the biggest ones was condensation. That could be anything from just us breathing in the night, couldn't it? That caused a lot of condensation on the front windows especially.
Yeah, you've got 2 people's breath for 24 hours a day, the wet heat from the gas.
Yeah.
That all then went into mainly into the cab really, but generally everywhere, condensated and then created like damp bedding, damp clothes.
In the worst cases.
Yeah, when it was really bad. And also we had mould starting to grow in the cab underneath the sun visors, so that was also a bit of an issue.
Yeah, that was a bit of a realisation at that point that maybe we should have thought about this a bit more before we started. Also, when in extreme temperatures, a fan or more ventilation would have been very welcome, especially in the heat in Sardinia, where we just didn't have any airflow. The air was so still. We're trying to use our little USB fans to just shift a little bit of a breeze about on some days. It was just a bit much, so having that ability to just circulate some air at least would be really helpful.
And then in a way I think we struggled the most when it was cold and rubbish weather, because the more you cooked, the more you boiled the kettle, the worse it was. And most of the time, to a degree, that was in Scotland, where you had to then deal with midges not being able to open the window to allow some steamy air out. It was a nightmare. And then we also had mosquitoes. And now we have a 4-legged furry friend. We've got someone else's needs to think about, not just the 2 of us putting up with it really. So that's the reasons why we need ventilation.
Hey. So to rectify our little ventilation issue, we have invested in the creme de la creme of van fans, the most highly recommended and sought after fan on the market, I think. Yeah,
very well reviewed, and all of the big van lifers seem to recommend it.
Well, I mean, you probably know what it is because we probably put it in the title and the thumbnail, but we went for the Maxxair Deluxe, all the bells and whistles and all the expense as well.
And we got it in a, what tint did we get it? Clear?
I think slightly tinted.
Slightly.
Smoky, I think they might call it.
Oh, tint lid.
And we've got the tint.
Yeah, it comes in white or smoke, and we've got tint.
So very excited to put this on the van. Even comes with the little remote, which kind of feels unnecessary considering we could probably touch the controls on the fan from anywhere in the van because it's so small.
The fan can be used even when it's raining thanks to the built-in cover. You can use the fan whilst driving if you desire. The fan is capable of moving over 900 cubic feet of air per minute. It has a built-in programmable thermostat to help maintain a constant temperature. And it operates on 12 volt using only 0.2 amps on low setting and 4 amps on full power. So this wonderful piece of kit cost us £330. We had to pre-order it and got a bit of a waiting list for it for a few weeks. I think main factors of that are Brexit, the pandemic, and also the camper van build boom. So we now have it in our midst and we can now pop it on the roof. Right then, so let's get to it. No, we're joking. If any of you know us really by now, you know that we don't do things like this. We've never cut a hole ourselves in Flora and we aren't going to change that. We're going to take it to a professional, mainly because she's been finished for years, and if we do something now that ruins her for life, we'd never forgive ourselves. But there's a few things we actually do need to do first. We've got to get her ready for her operation.
Unfortunately, one of our first tasks is something that I think we promised to each other that we would never ever do again, and that is to get the roof down, because I don't think we recorded it when we managed to put it up, but it took 3 of us a very long time holding it up for what felt like an eternity, trying to pop in the little plasticky screws that hold it in place, because obviously there's trim on the wood, so everything doesn't fit quite right, and it took us absolutely hours.
And it really hurt your arms and shoulders, didn't it? It was awful. So we've got to take that down.
Yep, but prior to that we do have to take our fairy lights that are stapled in. But we were saying the good thing about doing this, it's not ideal. No. We should have cut holes before we did anything.
This is our top self-builder tip. Really think about what you need to do, like big jobs, before putting the finishing touches together. So cut out your holes, do the electrics, just to help yourself not to do what we're doing now.
However, there is a silver lining, I think, and that is that it's given us a chance to really have a good deep clean whilst we're removing stuff, because everything's a bit grubby after a year or so. It's not too bad.
There's a chance we may have to recover the back headlining of the van, the ceiling. We will see, because we're going to have a big hole cut out of that and then try and save the fabric to wrap back inside of it.
Yeah.
We don't quite know yet what we're going to have to do, so.
Not exactly looking forward to this, but once the roof's down, that's about all we have to do, because the insulation, everything should be fine to stay where it is.
Yeah, and we've measured it up. The roof rack can stay intact the way we've got it, but it might be a little bit tight. Fingers crossed it'll be all right. Right then, let's get going. That was quite a lot easier than I think we were expecting that to be. We've had a few casualties on the way. A few of these roof clips, I think they're called. The thread for the Allen key on the inside has gone, so we've had to just rip them out with a flat edged screwdriver and a pair of pliers. So we have to see if we've got any more of those or buy some new ones. So, but yeah, Cal was very impressed at the way he'd done his electrics. He'd forgotten because he hasn't seen them for so long. Literally just click them out. The inside light that comes with the van fell out nicely as well. So we're quite happy with that. So now the van is ready for us to take it up to. So as you may be aware of from our previous videos, it didn't quite go to plan. We didn't hire the professional that we thought we had hired, and some elements of the work carried out was a bit of a bodge job.
With the skylight, I think there's a lot more danger with that if that isn't fit right, because the windows were leaking, so we really can't risk having a leaky roof vent.
So for a while we left the van empty and made sure that there were no leaks. We also got some advice and just showed other people, and in a way they kind of put our minds at ease, didn't they?
Roof vents can be tricky, so essentially if it isn't leaking now, don't touch it.
Yeah.
So,
and in a way he's done his job if it's not leaking.
You know, we feel pretty confident at the moment.
Yeah, I think part of it is that Flora is blue, so the white sealant that would look perfectly fine on a white motorhome stands out like a sore thumb. And it could have been a cleaner job.
Yeah, as you said, it is just the way it looks, and maybe a wet finger just to smoothen off the edges would have done the job.
I don't think he'd heard of the wet finger technique, everybody. Even I know about the wet finger technique. Even you know about the wet finger technique.
So at this stage, all that was left to do was to put everything back in place and wire up the fan. Luckily, we could do that before we put all the roof back, just to check that it was working, and fortunately it was. So basically, it was a case of measuring where the fan is on the roof so that we could cut out the section of the roof lining to fit around the fan and make it a nice, neat, tidy job. Overall, the job of putting everything back wasn't too hard. Definitely a bit stressful at times because I was trying to do it by myself. Fortunately, the roof vent's sort of plastic casing is quite malleable, and you can cut it if you're careful and shape it to what you need. So pretty happy with the way it turned out, to be honest. I've added a couple of extra screws just to neaten up the job and make sure it's tight to the roof, because obviously the roof lining's curved, it's not straight. So it isn't the easiest job in the world.
I think it looks really neat, especially the way that you've cut in with the LED light. It could have looked atrocious if you didn't do it right, but I think you got it spot on. You took your time, and I'm thankful and happy and grateful that you did it on your own so well.
There's one thing I will never do again, and that's putting the roof up by myself. I don't think I recorded it, but I had the washing line in the van, very limited space. So like the clothes horse was up, holding the back. I was on the bed trying to put it up. Oh, it was an absolute
You didn't tell me about the clothes horse.
No, I was too stressed and angry about it to talk about it for a while. So yeah, it was a bit of a sight, but we got there in the end.
So now that the fan is in place and it is now in full working order, let's see what the new addition looks like in the van.
So over the last couple of weeks has been the perfect time to really put our fan to the test. We've had a couple of little heat waves here in the UK, so being able to shift the air around inside the van has been very helpful.
Yeah, the way it's been placed is really good because it sucks the steam and the hot air from cooking straight out and into the atmosphere.
Yeah, and if you need to, you can suck air in as well, so it does in, out, 10 speeds. Once you get up to like the 80, 90, 100% range, it is quite loud, so you definitely wouldn't be sleeping with that on, but that's also shifting quite a lot of air, so don't think you need to use that very often.
Here's a little clip of how noisy 100% is, but I don't think it's that bad because you're not going to be sleeping with it on 100%. Now, going to take it up to 100%. Can be quite noisy, but worth it. And this is 20% speed, air out, that we have been kind of sleeping with, and we can sleep with this sort of noise no problem, probably even higher if we needed to. But yeah, it's been really, really good the last few days.
But generally, if we're sleeping, we put on about 10 or 20%, and it just helps move the air around, and we don't really notice it's on, nor do we notice it really having a big detrimental effect on our leisure battery. It's very low powered, 12 volt, very simple, works a treat.
Yeah, so we've had a couple of days where it's been in the 30s and sleeping in the van, and we are really happy. It's been making just the van a more comfortable place to live, especially for the boy now, for Rufus Roo. He was loving it. He's not deterred by the noise at all either. And our night sleeps has been a lot more cooler and more comfortable. So we are really happy and really glad that we've taken the time and had the stress of installing the Maxxair Maxxfan Deluxe.
It is expensive. I think it's probably one of the most expensive you can get, but it's what everyone seems to choose, and we can understand why.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it'll stand the test of time, hasn't let us down yet. So yeah, really happy with it.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
One thing I'm really looking forward to is when we took the roof down, we realised how dirty it is and how sort of oily. Some of the carpet is at the back of the van, so I'm looking forward to being able to get rid of all that cooking smells and
Air.
all that stuff that's been accumulating over the last few months, and from now on hopefully we'll be able to manage that a lot better because we're able to extract all of it.
We're pretty content and quite confident that it's going to make our van life future adventures much more pleasurable.
Much more
pleasurable.
But we do understand it's not air conditioning. It's not going to work miracles, but it'll help.
Which we don't have still.
So thank you very much for watching part 2 of our little upgrade series.
And make sure you come and join us for part 3 coming soon.
This whole thing has been much more stressful than we anticipated, but we're slowly seeing the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, and so far all of the upgrades that we have done we're happy with in the end, even though it's been a bloody tough road to get to this stage.
Yep, lessons learned along the way, I think.
Yeah, and if you didn't watch the previous video about the windows, I think we would do it all ourselves next time and just bite the bullet, find the courage and do the research and do it ourselves. Yeah. So, from us two and Rufus Roo playing in the grass, we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and if you haven't already, like, subscribe and comment if you've got any advice for us. How can we make that roof vent look better? I don't know if we can, but anyway, we will see you in the next one. Thanks again. See ya.